All right, and we are back for another episode of The Cube Counselor. Welcome back. No icebreaker this week. We're just going to jump right into it. Try to keep this one a little bit shorter. We're not even going to do the draft today. So, our icebreaker is what two picks are you taking from this Double Masters pack? So, remember, we get two picks. You see them auto selected here. Um, so yeah, let's try it this way and let me know, of course, what you think in the comments. Or you can hit me up on Twitter. I'm at anti_drummer on Twitter. I am on there a lot, probably too much during the day, talking about Cube with a lot of the great folks I've met on Twitter. Um, so yeah, you can drop me a comment there as well. But what do you take in here? I'll give you a couple seconds to look through the pack. For those who've drafted the set, you're probably honing in on what you want from this pack. I thought it was fairly obvious given the nature of this set, but you can let me know. Um, some highlights obviously Reclamation Sage, great in an artifact heavy set. Get a creature left behind, destroy an artifact or enchantment, great. Buried Ruin, bringing back Trinisphere. I don't know if you really want it in draft, but I'm sure you could build around it. But it seems like it's a more of a constructed card, but it is an artifact, so good on them for putting it in the set. It was getting up there in price too. Fairy Mechanist, also very good. I could definitely see people picking that. But yeah, I definitely picked the Reclamation Sage first, and for my second pick, I think for the second draft in a row, I took Mezeric, Crawl Death Priest. Um, whenever any player sacrifices another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So took that. I think this is the second draft in a row. This is only my second draft, and definitely wanted to take that early. It wasn't really with the double pick here. Wasn't really concerned with one of the picks being a gold card. You know, obviously we're leaning towards green already, so it's not like it was opposite colors of Rexage or anything like that. So, and definitely fits. It's something you want to take early and draft around. Last draft, if you tuned in, it wasn't heavy enough on the sacrifice theme, and I think it kind of hurt that deck. So went a lot heavier with this one, and we'll see where we ended up here. And take a quick glance through this. We ended up with a Thoughtseize, and a Twilight Mire, and a Graven Carens for fixing. Some good stuff in here. Sacrificing to get our Bone Picker out. Skull Mulcher draws cards for people who don't know. It devours sacrifice creatures. It gets +1/+1 counters, and then same with the Slumgar Scavenger. Anytime a creature dies, you get counters on it, and then Bloodbriar every time you sacrifice gets counters. So we went pretty heavy with that theme. We got a couple crop rotations, only ended up playing one, but again, with cards like Bloodbriar, anytime you sacrifice a permanent, it gets counters. So yeah, I felt like we did pretty well as far as our theme, and then we also got, if you've never played with Karthus Tyrant of Jund, just a big crazy dragon man. So we wanted to splash for that, and I think we ended up taking out the Sandstone Oracle, but I don't remember what we brought in. Probably a Darksteel Axe, I believe, to put on some of our smaller creatures. But yeah, that's the deck, and then we're going to watch a quick match here. We're going to watch match 2, game 3. And yeah, again, let me know if this format is cool for you. If you prefer seeing the drafts, I certainly understand that. If you kind of want to watch pick by pick. So we're going to fly through this pretty quick. We won match 1, 2-0, and this is game 3, so we're playing for the old 2-0. And I kept the hand, based on what I had seen aggressive red-white deck, a lot of artifacts, a lot of equipment. So, I thought obviously Rec Sage would be good. And then this dragon just kind of single-handedly wins games, flying haste, gain control of other dragons, then untap all dragons. I think they played, I think it was in game one of this, they played the dragon that makes 2 treasure tokens, and I was able to steal it and win the game that way. So I'm sure my opponent was not happy with that, but yeah, it was a cool deck. I'm cruising towards the 3-0. They got the path here, but that's okay. That'll ramp us towards our big fatty dragon, and we're feeling pretty good. And we got the crushing vines here for the adaptive automaton. They're at 2, but I mean we're pretty low. And again, they're extremely aggressive. This card, anytime an artifact comes in, it gets trample and +3, +0, or +2, +0, or something like that. So the reason I want to highlight the match, and sorry I went through that kind of quick there, we should have won there. And that's kind of going to spur our conversation for today. I thought this dragon had trample. I don't know why. I thought that. I just assumed it's a big and obnoxious dragon. It's 7 mana. I sat and I thought about it, and I forgot. Sanctum Gargoyle had flying. I had 2 ways to win that game, I think. Either play Onaganita and it gives trample, or kill with the Crushing Vines, the flyer. And I didn't do either. I sat there and I thought about it, and I said, okay, I'm going to go, all right, I'm going to win this. And it didn't happen. So, we moved on to the next turn, and unfortunately, I'm at 6, and they're an extremely aggressive deck. And I think, they had 1 card in hand at the time, and now they play this. Oh, maybe they had 2 cards. So the chances they draw an artifact for trample are pretty high, but obviously once they hit this, my stomach drops. I'm getting upset. I'm kind of tilting off on myself, and that's what I want to talk about today. I think I had mentioned it. Oh gosh, it's probably been 3 or 4 videos. I was reading an article by a Magic writer, and actually, unfortunately, that article's gone now. I think there was some issue with the editor, so we can't really review that article now. But I can go over the basics of it. Anybody who plays Magic for even a month, 2 months, you hear the word thrown around a lot, tilt. I didn't actually look up, where its origin comes from, supposedly, but I'm assuming it's referring to, in pinball machines or arcade machines, the tilt. It's a common phrase, and I do feel like I was able to avoid it here. I will say honestly, I went on to lose match 3 as well, so I went from theorizing or fantasizing about a 3-0 to a 1-2. So I don't feel like it affected. I think I got royally stomped in game 3, but I was mad after this match, so that's kind of why I wanted to jump into our topic for today. Again, you see here that they had more than enough, with the aggressive package that they have to finish out the game. So yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get there. We made a huge mistake. We thought we could maybe recover with the crashing vines that we had to kill the adaptive automaton, but it didn't happen, and that happens. Again, I don't feel like I quote unquote tilted off, but I was angry. I was angry that my opponent's deck was so aggressive, and if I just stabilize at a couple more life points, maybe they can attack there. I was obviously angry that I had 2 opportunities and didn't see either one of them to win that game. I was angry that I didn't read my cards before. I was angry about a few different things. But again, I don't feel like I tilted off like I was, it affected the next game. I mean, I was, thinking about it. I probably shouldn't have went into the other game. It should have taken a minute. But again, let's talk about the word tilt. Did I knock stuff over or start, breaking things or saying I'm never going to play again? I don't feel like I did that, but I think there's a difference to. Again, I mentioned a minute ago. The word tilt gets used often. I mean, I've heard it, 20 something years ago when I started playing it. It's been a common vernacular in Magic forever. And, I think people use it, tongue in cheek. Oh, he's tilting off. Oh, you're tilting off. Oh, you're getting salty. Those kind of terms, they're fun. If I'm playing with, drafting with a buddy and I'll say, oh, you're tilting off, you know, but I think sometimes they get in the way of progress. So it's okay, I'm not here to tell people what language they can use. Most people who play this game are adults, and you know, you can use any kind of phrase you want, and of course you're free to use. Sometimes that's what makes the game fun. When we say, we use those terms, and then we all know them, and then we go, salt. We know what salt is. Put a salt shaker in the chat emote. Sometimes there's enjoyment to it, but sometimes it does get in the way of progress. So again, I think it's important to reflect on that every so often. To speak, with your play group and your friends, if you feel like they're using it in a way to kind of, to get you to tilt off or to agitate you, I think you need to be open about that. And also, again, if you're using it and then kind of just laughing it off, again, if I had really reflected back and said, I got so angry with myself that I couldn't focus on the third game, then it is time to reflect. But it's not always tilt either. Just because you're upset, I think, and most people would agree, emotions are a healthy thing. They happen for a reason. They're the mind and the body's response to certain things, and I think it's okay. If I want to become a better drafter and a better Magic player, I have to be able to look back at those things, and it's okay to be angry and not just say, you win some, you lose some. Of course, in the end, I want to get to that point, after I've had a moment, to feel bad for myself or whatever. But I do want to grow from it, so I don't want to just laugh off every moment, because I want to get better. I want to win more play points. I want to, win those trophies and be able to, talk to my friends or post on Twitter that I, improved enough. That helps, my self-esteem. That helps me feel good, to not have to think about those things. But that's part of why I wanted to show it today. I think it's also important to talk about. So I think it's, first off, important to be able to reflect and know the difference. Am I truly tilting off? We'll use the word again. Am I truly letting my actions, affect the, am I letting my emotions and the thoughts about them affect it? And one way we can do that is, a common technique that they use in CBT therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. And part of the reason I wanted to mention that article is I don't know the person's background, but he kind of almost broke it down like he had some background in this. So I think that this is a good way to kind of reflect back on those moments and say, um, are my emotions and my thoughts affecting, the consequence or the follow-up? And, it's a simple technique. It's rooted in rational emotive therapy is where it kind of started, and then now more popularized by the more popular and commonly used CBT therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. It's simple ABC technique. It's an activating event, as you can see here on the screen. Maybe you've been reading along. An actual event, and then A plus B equals C might lead you to believe that there's an event, there's a behavior, there's a consequence. But the B is actually your beliefs about the event, your thoughts. The loss of match 3 in round 2 is the activating event, what I need to reflect on is, what was I thinking in that moment? And if I'm being honest with myself, there's obvious, or there's apparent obvious thoughts that I'm having, and then there's underlying. There's, subconscious thoughts that I'm having. So it's important, and it's been, 4 or 5 days since I played this match. So in reflecting on it, I have to be honest with myself. I was thinking, I'm a poor player, maybe not in those words, but I'm, I'm not a quality Magic player. I'm wasting money. I traded in cards on MTGO to get tickets for this league. What a waste. Again, some of those thoughts in a healthy way may help you improve, but if you go beyond that and you start saying, I'm an idiot, I'm worthless, I should never play this game again, when you start thinking those really, really irrational thoughts, and you see here there's a nice chart here. Again, it doesn't have to be a negative event. It can be any event. It can even be a positive event. It can be, I won I got the trophy. Oh, I don't belong here. I don't, I don't deserve this. I shouldn't tell anybody. It doesn't have to be a negative event, but for the sake of this outline, they're pointing out a negative event, a loss, or something like that. And again, in our case, it is a negative event. I made a pretty big mistake, punted away a pretty simple victory again. Not to dig myself in deeper, but had a couple of options to win that game. So, I had rational beliefs that, what, people, people make mistakes. I don't get to play enough. I'm still new to this format. It's a lot of cards. Magic has a deep, history of cards, and this set, obviously is built around that, cards from, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So there were some rational thoughts to it, and then there again was some irrational, which we've been over. We won't go over that so many more times. But basically, to summarize, you see the negative thoughts. Again, I felt like I was able to control those a little bit better. This is something I've practiced before. I'm trying to get better on in my gameplay in general, and in my life in general. So I feel like I wasn't able to, but I'm sure it had some impact into the next game, even just the first few turns, not focusing. And then, of course, at the end of that, when I went 1-2, then thinking back, oh, I could have been 2-1 at this point. I could have been paired against somebody else and played differently. So then I kind of had to revisit it a little bit. And now, even revisiting now as we talk about it. But it's something that I wanted to go over because, again, most of the time, if you get a flat tire, you're driving to work, that's the event. If you start thinking irrationally, these things happen. I need to get a new tire. I need to put the spare on quickly so I can get to work. But then if you're thinking irrational beliefs, this always happens to me. I'm going to get fired. My boss isn't going to understand. Or some of that might be rational, but people will think less of me. I'm going to end up, homeless on the street. When you start thinking these, subconscious thoughts start coming out about how you feel about yourself, well, that's, what we want to challenge. And today, we're not here to talk about, the follow-up to that and how you work through it. I encourage people, as I have before, if you're really having, especially with your hobby, if this is supposed to be, enjoyment and time to get away, from heavy emotions. If you're really having those challenges, then it's time to explore these things with a professional. And although I've said this before, I am a professional. I have a clinical license. Of course, this brief conversation is not a substitute for real therapy. So we encourage you, reflect on that. look back at those losses and say, did that carry over to the next match? What was I thinking about myself? To be honest with you, I've had a conversation with people at events, telling me, they're going to quit Magic. This always happens to them. They get paired against decks they can't beat. Um, and I encourage them. I hope I see you back. But I hope that a person like that would have people closer to them than obviously an opponent who had just met them that night. To let them know that kind of negative self-talk, and if he's saying it out loud, who knows what was internal as well. Um, that takes the enjoyment out of the game. It takes the recreation out of the game, I guess is what I'm saying. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. So I appreciate people listening as always. If you enjoyed, again, this was one of our episodes where we kind of break down a topic. If you enjoyed this, tried to keep it to a reasonable length. The other episodes with the drafts have been getting a little bit longer. So again, this is just a way to break down maybe some things that you've been noticing, um, in yourself or your gameplay, or people in your play group. Maybe this will help point them in the right direction. So again, you can look up ABC model in cognitive behavioral therapy, or ABC of CBT. Gotta have a JOB if you want to be with me. You can look up the ABCs of CBT model, and that sometimes can help people. Some people can find that helpful on their own. Read up on it. There's plenty of amazing books on CBT therapy, or maybe again, something you bring to your therapist, or if you're thinking about seeing somebody, of course we encourage people to access those services. But again, I hope this was helpful. It's helpful for me even just to talk about it out loud and break it down. To think about it afterwards as a topic here was helpful for me. Still a little bit bummed about those 50 play points, but you know what? We're moving on from there, and hopefully we'll double and triple check. We have plenty of time on the clock to check there, so we'll do that in the future. And I am still enjoying Double Masters. I'm looking forward to firing up another one. And again, hopefully this was helpful for you, as our slogan for the show goes. We get better together. So I thank you for tuning in, and we hope to hear from you in the comments. Take care.